Here we go. Welcome to the latest video, everybody. Welcome in. I hope we are all well. I have, as time of recording, I have had the last weekend. I've just been to a tournament, which has been really, really good fun, and completely got me addicted to tournament gaming again for 40k. So I'm going to be painting up a lot of stuff coming up. But this video is all about the new new Space Marine Terminator Chaplain. No chaos here, thank you very much. So this is the new Space Marines Chaplain and Terminator armor. Games Workshop was obviously very, very kindly sent it to me to review for you guys. So I'm going to go and have a look at the kit. Now, Space Marines is quite an interesting one for me because my Space Marine army is a custom chapter, which I have kind of scribbled and written and like planned some lore for in the back of my head. It's based on, well, it uses the Blood Angel rules, but they are not a Blood Angel successor chapter. They are one of the lost chapters, one of the lost legions, in my head anyway. But they are the Dark Pharaons, and the Dark Pharaons are they have a slight issue with some kind of dark demonic, not quite sure what's happening, possession that's going on. And this is the Chaplain which I have. He's missing his shoulder pad, unfortunately, but this is the Chaplain that I have for my Dark Pharaons at the moment. And he has, you can see here, a possessed Crozius, which I think looks amazing. We're having a little bit of trouble with the focus at the moment, but there we go. And so what I'm going to try and do is obviously convert up this Chaplain for a Dark Pharaon, and I also want to see if I can get a few more purity seals on him, get a few more little bits of ribbon and parchment around him, a little bit like a bit of the nod back to the old classic Terminator Chaplain, which I might throw up a picture of somewhere here right about now, if I'm very, very good at editing. If I'm not, then it won't be there, but I'm sure you all know it. So that's the idea with this one. Now, a lot of the possessed stuff which I get, I will put a link down in the description as well if you want to go and read the prologue. I've written a short chapter prologue on the Dark Pharaons, but a lot of the possessed, in inverted commas, because are they or are they not? That's not quite sure. we don't actually quite know yet. But a lot of the possessed bits that I use are from the Nighthaunt kits. So you'll see a lot of the wisps and things that I have coming off the armour are from the Nighthaunt. I will use some of the Nighthaunt arms. So these little arms, these ones are actually brilliant. Kind of coming up from the floor, trying to grab onto the armour and things like that. So the part which I'm going to use for the possessed Crozius is from the Executioner, the Nighthaunt Executioner. So that's going to be the skull which is going to be on the that we're going to use for the Crozius. That's the plan. And then I'm also going to see if I can get some of these wisps on the armour. But before we do that, let's have a look at the actual kit. So the kit is here itself. The usual way, if you squeeze it here, it will pop that out, so you can open it up nice and easily. Let's have a look at the kit and see what we are looking like. So he's on a 40mm base, which is nice. There we go. Let's get rid of that box. Don't need that box anymore. Nice little simple pamphlet for building. Now there are some options. We do have two different Croziuses that we could use, and I believe it's either a relic shield, which I'm not sure about. Surely the Chaplain should be like protected by the Emperor and things like that, but he does have like a relic storm shield, which I think looks cool. But you can also build him with a storm bolter if you want to. Interestingly, I think there might be a possibility of a torso twist for this model as well. So let's have a zoom in, and we'll have a look and see what we can find on this model. So we've got the Crozius up here. So this is one version of the Crozius up here. The other version is down here, and then you have these two winged eagles that go on either side of the Crozius there. Here's the relic shield. The relic shield also has, which is one of the reasons I think I'm going to use it, it does have this really cool skeleton on the side of it. He comes with two heads. So he's got one head here. We're having to flip it around a lot. So this is the bear head with a face mask, which looks quite cool. That's all right. That's quite good. Let's do a big zoom in so that we can have a proper look at all of this. There we go. So we'll have a proper look. So there's the bear head, and then we also have, where's the skull helmet? Where's the skull helmet? I am going to use a skull helmet on mine. There it is. There we go. So I am going to use the skull helmet on mine just because my current Chaplain also has the Chaplain skull helmet, which I just think looks amazing. So I will be using this helmet. And we are struggling with focus today. I'm very, very sorry. There we go. Should track now at least. We have a couple of shoulder pads. The shoulder pads are a little bit dull. Nothing particularly interesting going on about them. Again, it's one of those things. If I could sculpt really well, I would love to sculpt some parchment and some ropes covering that up. There are some options and possibilities that we could use from the Sisters of Battle sprue. We've got the Sisters of Battle sprue here, so I could use one of these. I could try and cut one of these off and use that, and then obviously we've got these very, very long bits of parchment which we might be able to use as well. And then just some purity seals and things. I've actually just got a Grey Knight sprue to use all of that, but other than that it looks pretty cool. Now in terms of torso twist, here is the hips. So the hips are here. It's got the registration joint on the top, which is really, really good, so that's helpful. So I can just slice that off and then I can put the hips on anywhere they like. The only limiting factor here is this little armour piece on the on his bum, which if we slice off up there, we can just glue to the back of the hips, and then we should, in theory, be able to then build the legs, the hips, and glue all that together, and then build the body and the torso, and then that will nicely, as you can see here, because it's got a nice kind of ball and socket joint, we should then be able to pose that and twist that how we like. So the plan is to have the torso twisting into the steps, so we'll be twisting a little bit further this way, and then we'll be able to draw a little bit more focus to the Crozius as well. So we'll see how that goes. In terms of quality, I mean, it's just so good. This is a single injection sprue, and we've got it's quite nice. Oh, sorry, I've got something in my mouth. It is quite nice how they are adding a little bit of variety to some of the models. It's one of my big bugbears at the moment with the Space Marine stuff, that there isn't any variety. They've lost a little bit of the tactical nuance from the old tactical Marines. These are the kind of things, like, I'd love to have another one of these. If I could get another of these and just have the big chunky parchment hanging off the centre of the torso, again, like that classic Chaplain, I think that would be amazing. I think the torso here just looks a little bit plain and empty. Maybe we could freehand something on there, but maybe not. So I want to try and cover that up with something, and the obvious idea is parchment. I love the little kind of connection nodules on here, the power nodules that will be connecting onto the shoulder pads, which is really, really nice. There's the hand for the shield as well, and yeah, it is quite cool. I'm not entirely sure on the pose, but we'll see when we get it all built up. Like I say, I am going to kind of slice that off, put that onto the hips, so that we can play around with a little bit with the torso twist, and then of course we will play around with some possession, some little possessed wisps that are coming off the armour, a la my old original Chaplain, my little Chaplain. Come on, get focus, please. There we go. Camera's being very, very slow today. So we're going to see if we can get some dark Pharaon wisps and possessed nuance to this model as well. And yeah, so let's get building on this one. Doesn't seem to be any issues with snipping. There's that bit there, so this whole part. So one of the reasons why I look at, I'll just kind of go through this. One of the reasons why I look at parts like this and have a order in which I'm going to clip them off. If I clip this off here, that is a very, very large gate. So as I'm clipping it, it's pushing the whole part that way, and if it pushes the whole part that way, this hasn't been clipped off, so it's putting a lot of pressure on this joint here. So as I'm clipping that off, it's going to push that whole part, it's going to stress that, and it could snap that. So that's why I always look at parts and try and figure out which way they're going to be clipped off first. So the way I would clip this one off is I would clip that off there, I would just nudge it down away from that gate there, so that when I do clip that bit off, it's not pushing against the gate and then putting pressure on that little bit of plastic there, and then you can clip all the rest off. So it's just little things like that. There's nothing else on here which is kind of weak, or it's not saying that it's weak. Like the plastic the Games Workshop use now is fantastic, and like the Silent King being held up by like 3 bits of electricity going onto the floor is like not an issue at all. The plastic is brilliant, so it's not like it's going to snap or stress or anything like that. But the more you can do to prevent any like little stress marks and stress bending of parts, then it's not going to get weaker. If you kind of catch it again when you're painting it, maybe you'll catch it when you're painting it and just kind of stress it a little bit more, and then it gets weaker and weaker and weaker, and then it might stop off. So yeah, it's just little things like that. Just be careful on the order in which you're snapping those off. And have I got a I haven't got my clippers nearby, otherwise I would have just done that now just to show you. But yeah, let's get this one built up. We'll see how he looks, and we will get a lovely Possessed Crozius built up for him as well. Really, really cool model. This is the one that's come out, which I really wanted to build, which is why we're doing it first. Right, let's get going. So this is the first bit of the kind of customization and conversion, if you like, into the Dark Pharaon Chaplain, which it needs to be. So we're gonna hack up the Crozius. I'm using the flat Crozius just because it felt easier to kind of get this possessed screaming skull on there. The Chaplain that you saw at the beginning of the video, it actually had the other skull from, so the Executioner's Axe has, I think it's got 3 skulls on it, and this is just one of those that I just kind of put it to one side because I knew I'd want to use it for some weapons at some point in the future for the Dark Pharaons. So I was just getting the angle right for the cut on the Crozius so I could get this screaming skull, if you like, angled into the right direction. Kind of just chipped it away carefully, just showing it up and making sure that the angle was all right. And then we're doing here just a little bit, a little bit of tack onto all the parts, and then very, very badly just trying to get it so that I can see what angle it needs to be, so that the skull is facing as vertical and as forwards as I can, because it's supposed to be kind of emanating from the Crozius, so it'll be, gravity will be holding it upright, sort of thing. So that was the plan. So just very, very slowly and very carefully remove more and more bits of the Crozius, and get the angles right and everything before gluing that, before gluing the head on, and in fact gluing the hand on as well. So we got the hand joined up, and now just on the inside here, it goes out of focus a little bit. I'm very, very sorry. On the inside here, just kind of cleaning up that flat surface, so we've got a good flat surface to glue to. I am going to kind of just absolutely gunk it in glue, as you can see, because the idea is that the Crozius has got this screaming skull kind of emanating out of the top of it, so it didn't have to be particularly neat in that sense. So just kind of put a load of glue on here, sit it on there, get it into the right orientation, and then I'm just going to kind of flood it with glue and make sure that it's kind of softening all the edges down. Just in here, look like this. So we just kind of flood some glue into there, kind of allow it to soften the join a little bit. We're going to cover the join up even more afterwards as well. And then the gap in the screaming head, in the screaming like mouth bit, sits quite nicely over the angled Crozius, which looks quite good. I like it. It looks cool. And then that's showing the angle is nice and vertical. One of the things actually that I was a little bit like about on the other Crozius was that and I actually turned it around a little bit. So the way the other Crozius was kind of converted up, the skull was facing down, but you never saw it. It was painted so well, and then it was facing down, so you never saw it. So I actually snapped it off and twisted it around, so it wasn't kind of acting towards the accurate rules of gravity or anything, but yeah, it just looked better. It just meant that you could see it more, so I was very aware that on this one I wanted to make sure that the Crozius, that the skull was facing forwards. So this is a little throwback too. If you remember the old Chaplain in Terminator armour, he was absolutely covered in scrolls and parchments and purity seals and everything. So this is from the Sisters of Battle banner bearer, I think. She's got like a cupboard on a stick, but she's got loads of parchments on it. So I'm literally just cutting off one of those bits of parchment. I thought it would look quite cool. And so one of the things here that we're trying to do is always trying to make it so that it fits in with the kind of the scale of the model and everything. So just kind of sticking it on there as it is now would look terrible because it would just be too thick. So we're just scraping and thinning it down using a little bit of filing and a little bit of kind of cutting. And again, I'm sorry that it's drifting out of focus. I was trying a new focus mode on the camera, but couldn't quite. It was struggling a little bit with that focus. So in order to get that to fit, I'm kind of showing it up to the model here and there, we just had to cut off this little dangling bit, and I thought, I'll put it on the other side, but it doesn't really fit, so forget that. But so yeah, this is a parchment, fits on this side really nicely, and actually the angled kind of, it's got a little bit of a curve and a crooked bit on it on the end. And if you bend that out a little bit like this, then it sits really nicely over that knee pad, and that also gives it a second place to anchor the glue join, if you like, which is absolutely perfect. So add a little bit of glue to that, and then so the glue that I use kind of catches really quickly, and it's fantastic for things like this because you can put it into place and then let it go and then kind of position it and tweak it and move it around a little bit. So it's really good. And if it was in focus, you'd be able to see that really well, but you can't. But so you'll have to just kind of take my word for it. And then there's that second anchor point, which is absolutely perfect, and makes sure that it's not going to go anywhere. So two points of glue right over the top on the chest covers up that. It's a cool rib cage. I like the rib cage. I was talking to a friend and he said he was going to kind of like freehand some ribs on it. That would look really cool, but as a surface in itself, I just thought it was just too blank, too bare. So filled it with like obviously that parchment on that side, and then this is just a granite purity seal. I mean, you can use any purity seal you like. I was just been building some granites recently, so I've got that sprue on my shelf. So yeah, just that goes on there. This is the other benefit to this glue as well. You can hold it on like that, and then grab a little bit of glue and just run it in the seam. So you can get it in roughly the right place, run it in the seam, and there we go, it's glued. So yeah, another reason why I absolutely love this glue. It is linked down in the description if you want to try some of that. I would recommend getting the brush that comes with the glue as well. So that's the Crozius arm. I do like it. The whole kind of idea. I was trying to get myself excited for Space Marines a while ago, and the whole idea that this is like a chapter that has fallen to some sort of demonic possession or some sort of possession. They don't really know what it is, or maybe it's just some weird psychosis. They don't really know, but it just allows me to kind of play around with all these little bits of conversions, which I really like doing, and it makes the Marines a little bit more unique. It would be really cool. Like I'd love to do individual Marines where I'm like sculpting something for every model. Like you can do that really well with Space Wolves because you can sculpt fur on them, or Death Watch. You can kind of sculpt all like individual universal Death Watch models. But I really like this idea, and the skull helmet just looks so good. Anyway, so yeah, we've got the. I think the next bit is the shield, so we're going to have a look at the shield. Yeah, here we go. So the shield, one of the characteristics of all of the Dark Pharaoh models which I've got are these kind of little possessed wisps, which are kind of flowing off the armour as the armour gets more and more, I don't know, possessed, if you like. There was the kind of like a vague idea which I haven't quite scribbled the lore down. I'll put the link to the first chapter, if you like, the forward to the idea of the chapter in the description. You can go and have a look. But all the Marines have like these little wisps of demonic fire coming out of them, and I wanted to put that onto the relic shield as well. And I use this Night Haunt, all the Night Haunt cloaks and everything for it, which is absolutely perfect. So just kind of snipping off one that looks like it will fit, and then making it nice and flat. This is a really simple bit of tech. It's just a circular sanding disc stuck to a piece of bamboo board. It just gives you a nice flat surface which you can flatten things out with. You might have seen me use it on some of the Horus Heresy tank tracks in previous videos. But it's just really easy. You can hold it level and just kind of drag it, and it flattens it all out. So sorting all that out, flattening it out so it all have a good fit. Lovely cup of tea as well. So I was trying to get that angled. This is obviously, it's going to have the shield is going to be pointing like horizontal, so it's going to be holding it down, so these wisps kind of make sense, kind of going straight upwards like this. So I'm trying to get that angle. That's what I'm kind of putting on now with the file, just kind of holding it at an angle and then just cleaning up. Knives are really good for organic things like this, because they will just kind of remove the top edge and kind of smooth it all out. Knives are really good for things like that. And then the same thing again, once it's on there, we're going to cover it in some glue, put plenty of glue on. So we're going to put a little bit on just to kind of hold it, make sure that it then cures just a fraction. It cures really quickly. So yeah, make sure it kind of sits there and holds it. and then the gap that you can see, we're just going to flood that with glue and allow the plastic to kind of melt together, and we can sort that out with a little bit of putty as well in a second. But that's the possessed relic shield. It just looks so cool. Yeah, I like this. I like my chapter more and more and more. I've actually done a possessed Dante as well with like a screaming face. I think he looks quite cool. He needs painting up, pretty sharpish, but yeah, he's quite cool. And there you can see it kind of all together. So that's the idea. The head isn't glued in, as you can see, because it just falls out there. So the head on the Dark Pharaons are silver, as you might have remembered from the beginning of the video. So he's ready to get painted separately, but this is all going to be big Terminator Chaplain. So we'll glue that arm on nice and simple. And then the next thing that we're going to do is where all the joins are and where the possessed kind of screaming skull and like the part of the relic shield, where they join into the plastic part of the model, we're going to get some plastic putty, and the Vallejo plastic putty is absolutely fantastic for this because it's water soluble. So what you can do is you can squeeze it on somewhere you want it to go, and then get a damp brush or a wet brush and just kind of thin it down, and you end up with a very, very thin plastic putty kind of paint, if you like, which settles really, really nicely, and it's fantastic for kind of making these joins invisible. I use it a lot on shoulder pads, the Necron shoulder pads, the Immortals and things like that, where the shoulder pads are really awkward to get to. So you'll fill it with glue and squeeze a little bit of glue out, and then if it's not quite there, then you can do this. So this is just some Vallejo plastic putty. I do tend to put on a lot, as you can see there, because then you can remove it when you kind of get that damp brush. So this is a very, very old damp brush. For God's sake, don't use your new paintbrush, because it does seem to dry and just gunk up the brushes a little bit. But yeah, so just you can see how much water I've got on there. It's kind of looks like white paint, the way it's kind of reacting and pulling away from the surface. And yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. Put plenty on, and then you can remove any excess. And if you put a lot of water on there, if you put a lot of water on, the water will sit as like a bubble over the top of it. But if you can kind of mix it in and blend it in and kind of make this kind of very, very thin down plastic putty, then it will kind of settle and find its own level and do a really good job at kind of blending it all together. And that's all we're doing here. We're just kind of getting it all, getting a little bit more water, pushing it around and where we want it to go, making sure we're softening it out onto all the different surfaces, and it's really, really simple. It dries. You can sand it reasonably well. If it's very, very thin, it's quite tricky to. So if you want to have this as like a thin layer, I'd probably use something like Milliput instead, because it hasn't got enough kind of strength to itself. So when you sand it, it tends to tear it off instead. But for things like this, doing organic stuff, it's absolutely fantastic. So, well, here we go. We've got the. I'm quite proud of this. It looks quite cool. So this is this is obviously the new one. We've got the possessed wisps. These are kind of like the little bits of armor which are slowly kind of deteriorating and getting slowly possessed. The kind of the cloak on the back, I was trying to get it up onto the top because I wanted to give him a cloak anyway, but then like as I was kind of doing it, I was like, well, maybe we'll just put like the little wisp on the top, like I do with some of my other just regular Marines. But I've put I found this kind of a little bit more swirling cloak, as if he's wearing a robe or as if he's wearing a cape, which has kind of slowly got possessed and angrified, if you like. We've got the possessed Crozius there as well, and then to compare against the Chaplain, which I have already done. That's the scale of him. This is obviously the what's he called? He's the one from the Indomitus box when Indomitus came out. I think it was Indomitus. It's the Judicia. So that's the scale. he's properly huge like the Terminator, but we've also got, as you can see here, I also put on that extra parchment down here. We put on an extra purity seal down here as well. So we've got plenty of kind of flowing cloth-like things around the model. We've left the head off. Where is the head? There it is, before it falls on the floor. We've left the head off so that I can spray it and paint it. All the helmets on my Dark Pharaons, as you can see, are silver, which is very, very easy to do with an airbrush. So I tend to airbrush the silver helmets separately. But I think he looks absolutely awesome. That's the angle there. I think that's the angle with the two heads and the two skulls, the one at the front absolutely screaming at you. I think that's brilliant. You also get the possessed wisps up at the top, which will be painted in the same red. As I say, if you, I will put the description down below if you want to go and have a look and just have a quick read of the prologue of the kind of not really a novel, but like the story that I was like starting just to pen out and put some thoughts down on the on paper about, and because all these wisps are supposed to be emanating from the armor, I have used some of that plastic putty. It's very, very good actually, this, because it's water soluble, so you can get a wet brush, as you saw me do, and you can kind of smooth it out. So that should be a nice smooth join now, so that we can blend that. So whatever colour I paint that shield, I can then blend it into the red as it kind of wisps up here. And then we can have that possessed Crozius as well. We did exactly the same thing with that, kind of squeezed loads of putty into that. Added some water to try and kind of soften and blend all that together, so it looks like the Crozius is kind of melting away into this screaming face. So yeah, I mean, that's the idea, was just to try and make an interesting Space Marine chapter for myself. I've struggled for many years really to try to try to kind of see myself as a particular Space Marine chapter, or to kind of buy into any of the particular Space Marine chapter lore and anything. Like, I kind of like Raven Guard, but the colour scheme is very uninspiring, if you like. And I do like Night Lords, they're really fun. That's got a really, really cool, interesting colour scheme. I do like the Emperor's Children as well, but that's kind of like on the Chaos side. I've done Night Lords and Emperor's Children for Horus Heresy. But in 40k, I just kind of got a little bit lost. Whether I was slightly tempted by the Dark Angels when the Risen kind of popped up, but I'm sort of dragging those and merging the Dark Angels in with the Dark Pharaons now as well. So the Dark Pharaons can either go Dark Angels, or they can use the Blood Angels rules. To be fair, with the new edition as well, you can use any rules you like. It's not quite as restrictive, which is really, really good. But yeah, the Dark Pharaons, it's allowed me to kind of play around with my imagination a little bit more. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed doing this conversion, and the next video that you see on this model will be painting it up. I'm going to paint it up for the Warhammer community, so hopefully it gets featured on the website when they do an article. And you will be able to keep an eye out for that and let me know what you think of the model when it's painted. But there will be a video coming out very, very soon where I paint it up. It will be an airbrush based video, like all my Dark Pharaons are nice and kind of subtle and soft, so they are kind of heavily airbrushed with some oil washes. So if that's your thing, then look out for that video coming very, very soon. And until then, thank you very, very much for watching. You can find me on Twitch pretty much every day of the week. It's twitch.tv/Chris Frothin. Drop me a follow over there, please, guys, and come and say hello. That would be amazing. And from there as well, you can find links to my Discord, where I do little painting challenges every month, which are going down very, very well at the moment. And then you can find me on Instagram and Twitter and everything like that. It's just @Chris Frothin as well. So there we go. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you liked that. I think that is... I really, really like that angle. That's really, really good. You will also notice as well, just to quickly mention it, I have put a little bit of a packer underneath the feet on the base. That's just one of my things with Space Marines, is that I like having a bit of a silhouette between their legs, gives them a little bit more height and a little bit more presence. And when you have a loincloth in there or something that hangs down between them, I just like to give them a little bit more height. So this will be filled up with the Vallejo texture paste that I like to use, and it will just dip down here like this and then go back up again. Like I say, tune into the next video on the painting video, and you will see it all kind of, all the base kind of all filled in, and then we'll start painting it up. But let me know what you think, and let me know also which Crozius you would use if you do get one of these Chaplains, and indeed if you're going to get one at all. Rules wise, they're quite interesting to throw into a Terminator squad, so I'd be interested to see what kind of scary Dark Pharaoh Terminator squad. That looks so cool. I've got to put the head back on again, the helmet, and yes, as you can see, I am twisting the head. It sits there like that, but when I am going to glue it in, it is going to be glued in that direction there like that, so it is matching the point on the so cool. Oh my word, there we go. So yeah, thank you very much everybody, hope you enjoyed watching the video, and until next time, have an amazing Warhammer 40,000 journey. I talked myself into a corner there. I didn't quite know how to end that sentence, but yeah, have an amazing time guys, and I will see you later. Cheers, take care. Oh, I need to think of a name for him. Oh yeah, that's a good point actually. Need to think of a name. Put your name suggestions down below, and I will see you all next time. Thanks very much. Take care. Bye bye.